The summer is here, it's getting really hot out there, and running in the heat can be challenging and even dangerous. I've developed a lot of tips to run in the heat, which has helped me run Badwater 135, which was at 120 Fahrenheit. Today I want to share these tips with you to help you overcome the heat in the summer. Hey, Simon here, welcome to my channel. I'm an ultra runner with quite a lot of experience in the heat, including Badwater 135, but I've also raced hot race in humidity. So don't tell me it's just because it's dry, it's easy. And today I want to share with you some of the tips I've developed to be able to keep running and keep training in the heat, but also race in the heat so that you can do it too. And the first thing we need to get out of the way is, well, can't you just tough it out? Yes, a little bit, and some of the tips I'm going to provide today are about toughing it out, but it's important to remember that heat is real and heat is a real danger. I've seen people in race having heat stroke. I've seen people pass out. You can literally die from dehydration and electrolyte imbalance, so be careful out there. It's no joke when it gets into 110 or 120 Fahrenheit, so for Europeans like 40, 50s, it's dangerous and you need to do the proper things. Yes, you still need to tough it out, but you need to be smart out there. And there's different factors that will aggravate heat. The first one, of course, is the temperature itself, but the humidity matters a lot too. So don't look just at the temperature itself, but look at the humidity. Look how exposed to the sun you will be, how long you will be going. It's easier to control your body temperature for 1 hour than for 20 hours. And the last part is about intensity. Standing in the sun is one thing, walking is a little harder, running is much harder, and sprinting is really hard. So you'll have to gauge your effort to understand how bad the heat will be affecting you. For example, running intervals in the middle of the day might not be the smartest. I divide my tips into 3 categories, and depending on whether you're more training the heat or you're going to be racing in the heat, you might want to focus on one of these categories more than the other. The first one is about avoiding the heat. Yes, of course, that will be more important if you're training in the heat, but you're not going to be racing in the heat. The second one is about how to be able to endure the heat. So tips that will help you keep going despite the heat, which can be helpful in training, but also on race day. And finally, the last one is about adapting your body to the heat, which is particularly helpful if you're going to be racing in the heat. So let's dive right in. The first category is the most boring one, right? It's avoiding the heat. It sounds like you're a big wuss if you do that, but you're not. You're potentially just being smart. You do that if you're not going to be racing in the heat itself. Why would I suggest avoiding the heat? Well, the thing is that if you're training in the heat, you might not be able to produce the same level of effort. Your intervals will be a little slower. Your long run will be a little slower. And that just does not provide the same level of fitness bonus that you would have if you work out at the smarter time. So how to avoid it? Well, obviously running in the morning, running in the evening, but even better than that, if you're training for an ultra marathon, one of the things that is annoying is running at night. How about running at night? Practice using a headlamp, go on trail. You're both avoiding the heat, which helps you have a good workout, but also you're getting used to something else that will be very important. So you're not losing your time and you're not being a wuss, you're being smart. The other thing that you can do is, as I mentioned, intensity matters a lot. So if you're forced to train in the heat, maybe run slower, don't do your interval. But maybe also just go inside, run on a treadmill. There's good workout that you can have on a treadmill that would be difficult to have if you're running in the street. You need to avoid car, you need to be careful on footing. So plan your workout accordingly. If there's a heat wave, just be smart about it. And of course, don't forget your water.
And then I'll go to the lake.
Don't forget to bring a towel.
Okay. Thanks, Tally.
The next category is probably the category that I spend the most time when I prepared for Badwater 135. Temperature will go above 120 Fahrenheit. That's extremely hot. That's dangerous even just to stand around. So you need tips to be able to keep going despite that heat. And that's when you cannot avoid it. So I think that's particularly true when you're racing, but sometimes working out, you'll be forced to be in the heat. And the balance that you need to find with these tips is that some are very easy to apply all the time, and some of them are extremely challenging or cumbersome, but will have the best bonus. The low-hanging fruit, the easiest thing to do is having the proper clothing. There's different strategy. Some people will opt more for the influencer approach, but some people don't feel as comfortable walking around, running around shirtless in bras and very short shorts. Personally, I don't feel super comfortable doing that, but also that's not my preference. I prefer to dress a lot more, cover a lot more of my skin. I'm fairly light skinned, so the advantage also is that it's protecting me against the sun. But I won't just wear anything. I'll try to have clothing that are very breathable, so when I sweat, it will absorb the humidity and then it will evaporate fairly quickly. I also try to dress with light color, mostly white if I can, so it's not absorbing as much of the heat. I don't know how much this is proven by science, but if you have something that is darker, just my hair, for example, it's already pretty hot in this sun today. So you have to be careful with that. Choose smartly. I mentioned my hair, but of course, if it's really hot, you should be wearing a hat. That's true for the sun, but that's also true for the heat. It's gonna provide a little bit of shade, which will be helpful. I really like, and I'm sure you've seen the picture of my channel, which is me with my kind of dorky hat. I think it's actually pretty helpful. It's protecting my neck from the sun. I also very often will wear arm sleeves. Arm sleeves are helpful because they protect you against the sun, but also you can wet them and you can use some ice, which will help you cool down. And one of the reasons I recommend clothing over going influencer style, I mean, yeah, I think that's a body image thing and it's just being aware of people around you, but it's not just that. If people want to go shirtless, you know, that's totally fine by me. This is not for me. But one of the reasons is that another thing that you can do that is fairly easy is using water. If you spray yourself with water, if it's your body, it's mostly gonna run down. It's gonna help a little bit, but unless you're submerged underwater, it's just gonna drip down and then evaporates very quickly and then it's over. Whereas when you have fabric, they will stay wet much longer. So you will have longer the water with you, which will evaporate. And it's when the water evaporates that you're cooling down the most. It's not necessarily just the touch of the water itself. The only risk with that, and you need to be careful, is chafing. When your clothing are very wet for a very long time, just like with your feet, it can lead to chafing. So you have to find the balance of, do I really need to wet myself right now and risk potential chafing, or should I just push through? The top of the top is to use ice. It's just that it's tough to have ice, but if you're gonna be training by yourself, potentially bring a cooler with some ice, do maybe a 4-mile loops, come back to your car, use some ice, 4-mile loops. You can do something like that, but on race day, read if there's ice at aid station, and very hot race will tend to have some ice because this is working the best. And you want to be able to use that ice. So yes, put it in your drinks. If it's ice that you didn't touch with your finger or that everyone has touched with their finger, otherwise there's a risk of getting sick. So usually you try to separate these ice. But also for your body cooling down, that's the best way to do it. The first spot that you can use that a lot of people will show is on a buff around your neck. That's a very popular one and it's very easy. You don't need a specialized buff for that. I know some of them will sell that. It's just a little bit easier, but you can just grab it with your hand. So for the buff, you wear your buff normally, have a handful of ice, and then you put it here. And all you'll need to do is you roll it a couple of times so that it forms a pocket, and then you can turn it backward. And now it's gonna cool you down here. You could also put more in the front. You form a little pocket here and you roll it twice. And you can even put it under your shirt like this. It's gonna cool you down, it's gonna drip, number one. So later when you're running, when you're feeling pretty hot, if you still have in your buff, what you can do is you can take just one of the ice cube that you have and rub it, for example, on your forehead, on your side, on your neck. It's really gonna cool you down very quickly and you'll see the ice disappearing so fast because your skin is burning. The other place that you can do is in your hat. Again, they sell specialized hat for that, but very often you can just put it in your hat, put your hat, and at least now it's pressing down on your scalp, the ice, and it's gonna melt also. So it's gonna cool you down better than the buff itself. The disadvantage with this one though is that it's gonna be dripping and potentially it's gonna be dripping in your face. Now it doesn't sound so bad, but if you have sunscreen, it's dripping on your face, it might get in your eye, and it might get annoying. But it's working very well, so I use it pretty much all the time. But the best of the best spot to use it is in your arm sleeves. Try to distribute it around this place here where you have big blood vessels, and you will very much feel it. Now it's pressed against your skin, and the ice that you put on your arms, you will see will melt 2-3 times faster than what you have around your neck. And the reason is the one around your neck is mostly melting because of the air temperature, whereas the one around your arm is melting because of your body temperature. Another way to say that is that it's actually cooling you down. It's much easier if someone else does it or helps you, but if you do it by yourself, what you want to do is you want to open here the pocket, slide a few ice, and then the best spot to have them is around your elbow here, because you're able to run like this. But if you have a lot of ice, you can sometimes slide them a little bit further on your forearm. For the ladies, there's a bonus one. You can slide them over here, but for me, it didn't work. What Nora does that I think pretty often. It didn't work.
Not for Simon. For anyone who wears a sports bra, it works.
The other thing that you need to be very careful about is not just about cooling yourself down, but understanding what's happening. And right now you're just sweating a lot, which means you're losing water, you're losing salt. So drink. Try as much as possible to have cold drink. That's gonna help you cool down. And have some electrolytes, because especially if you go for a long time, you'll have a major electrolyte imbalance, and that can be dangerous. So use electrolyte mix like Tailwind, Scratch. There's a lot of different brands. I don't necessarily want to promote one specifically, but try to use that as much as possible. And if you have a crew, have them put your water in a cooler where the ice is, so that once you have it, it's going to be cooler, and that's really going to help you a lot. Finally, if you're racing in the heat, try to strategize when you're going to be running fast, when you're going to be running slow. The middle of the day is not the time to be a hero right now. The middle of the day is the time to be smart. For example, at Javelina, that would be the second lap from 20 to 40. Don't go fast. Take it slow. You can run fast later. You can run fast tonight, but the middle of the day is not the time for that. If you appreciate this video, please leave a thumbs up. I know these tips might sound a little bit basic, but maybe there's one or two that you can grab and ameliorate how you're dealing with the heat. But same thing, if you have a good idea to share with people, share it in the comments below. We're here to learn from each other. Thanks for watching. Finally, the last category, it's adapting your body to the heat. That's work that is happening before the race. So yes, it's much more race oriented, but also if you're gonna be training in the summer, you know, you live in Phoenix and you can't avoid the heat, try to adapt your body to the heat as much as possible. And there's two main ways to do that. The first one is, well, just go run in the heat. That will adapt your body. That means you'll be sweating more and you'll be used to it with time. And just going progressively in hotter and hotter and for longer and longer, you will see adaptation of your body. You will see that you're sweating more. The other way to do it is to do, for example, sauna session or to do hot tub session. Usually 3 weeks ahead of the race, I think, is a good time to start, and you will see the difference, especially if you're in the sauna. At first you will be sweating a fair amount, but the more session you have, the more you will be sweating, and that's a good sign that your body is adapting to the heat. A bonus that you can do is that we talked a lot about drinking sufficiently and how much is enough. What you can do is go to a sauna session where you weight yourself before and after, and then you'll be able to calculate how much sweat did you produce in, let's say, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and you can normalize that over a 1 hour period. That will tell you how much you're sweating at the maximum rate. And that's it, folks. These are my tips for running in the heat and staying strong. You need to think about, can you avoid it, and would that be smart? If not, you need to endure, and you need to develop your own method that will work best for you. What I describe is what has worked well for me at Badwater 135, but everyone will be different. Some people like to run shirtless. Some people like me like to be dressed a lot and use water and ice. Finally, you can adapt your body to the heat. It takes a little bit of time, but that's time well invested if the big challenge of your race, like Badwater or Javelina 100s or Keys 100, the big challenge is the heat. Adapt your body. Include that in your training block. If you appreciate this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below, do you have tips for people running in the heat? As always, thanks for watching.